If you are anything like me, you probably have at least one story world that you keep returning to, one fictional realm that pulls you in time after time again. For me, one of those places is Skyrim. It's Cyrodiil's northernmost region, the home of the Nords. Skyrim is a place of rugged mountains, pine forests, icy tundras and wild rivers. A place where the cold of its frosty climate is contrasted by the warmth of its fireplaces. Where a peaceful landscape can turn hostile at any moment, and civil war looms on the horizon. It is a place where I, like many others, have spent countless hours, during which I've explored pretty much every inch of the map, done every quest I could find, maxed out the skills of my character, and all that multiple times. The question of why seems almost too obvious to really engage with. It's fun. The story isn't particularly great, but it has a beautiful world, an immersive soundtrack and atmosphere, and a gameplay loop that gives you plenty of things to do, plenty of rewards for doing them, and gives you these little dopamine hits frequently enough to keep you hooked. There always seems to be something new, something unexplored, just waiting there over that next hill. Every town presents new stories to immerse yourself in, new characters to engage with, new tasks to fill your quest log with, which in turn contributes to your own progression, and the promise of improved weapons and armor, a higher level, new skill points, and so on. We could continue discussing the game in this context, like many others have already done. We could talk at length about its successes and shortcomings, its quest design, narrative design, its skill trees and combat systems. But for me, this doesn't quite capture the full experience, the full meaning that keeps me coming back to Skyrim. It is obvious that there is a personal attachment here, and an element of nostalgia, but I think there is also something more, a feeling that, as I'm sure anyone who thinks back to their own favorite video game can attest to, runs deeper than what a mere analysis of game design can articulate. For besides the easy answers, I think there is an overlooked reason to why we are so drawn to fictional worlds like this one that touches on some of our deepest human desires, desires that have to do with a fundamental yet too often neglected sense of meaning, of comfort, and of our connection to the world we inhabit. Desires that drive our longing to be transported out of our own reality and into another. For that is, after all, what role-playing games provide us with. They let us inhabit a different world, identify with a different character. All stories essentially have this function, but video games, and role-playing games especially, take this experience to new lengths as you are not passively observing, but actively participating. You're not empathically following a character on the page or on the screen. You get to be one.
You picked a bad time to come home to Skyrim, Kinsman.
When you first enter Skyrim, you are a nobody, a prisoner without identity or past. But after a brief introduction, you are released into the world and you are free to become somebody. You can follow the main quest, which details the story about the mysterious return of the dragons. But you can also join various guilds and rise through their ranks to become the ultimate thief, assassin, mercenary or magician. Or you can just wander about and immerse yourself in the world and the countless smaller quests and storylines that it has to offer. Unlike, for example, The Witcher or Mass Effect, where role-playing is interpreted as assuming a specific role, albeit one that you can to some extent shape through dialogue choices, Skyrim starts you off with more of a blank slate, an empty avatar that gives you more freedom to project your own self onto, and that over time builds into the mental image of a character that is uniquely yours. The first-person perspective contributes to this as it immerses you deeper into the world, lets you see it as if you were looking at it through your own eyes. On top of that, aside from a few grunts and noises, your character is also completely silent, meaning that whenever you engage in dialogue, you most likely do so by projecting your own voice. It must be said though that in Skyrim you are not truly a nobody, as your character always possesses the special powers of the Dragonborn, which is fun from a gameplay perspective as it gives you extra abilities. But it does make you the main hero, the chosen one, and this is somewhat restricting when you do not wish to play as someone of such fateful importance. Then again, it could very well be that you do desire to play a chosen hero like this, in which case you would have experienced the same restriction had the special destiny for your character not been there. In general, a role-playing game's promise of do whatever you want, be whoever you want, is never quite fulfilled in this sense. And while it is certainly interesting and important to discuss how the role-playing experience of the player can be improved upon, what matters here is not so much the extent of your freedom to roleplay, rather it is about how the given opportunities to do so, limited as they may be, shape your interaction with and experience of the game world you venture into. For ultimately, however you roleplay in Skyrim, whether you see yourself as an indifferent taker of lives, a noble guardian of the good and righteous, a wise wizard in pursuit of knowledge, or an ordinary citizen with a dark past reluctantly dragged into conflict. No matter where your creativity takes you, all of these different identities and experiences exist in the same context, the same universe, and that universe is a fundamentally religious one. What this means is not necessarily that Skyrim is a place with religious institutions and organized religions. Although it is. The citizens of Skyrim worship a variety of deities and have faith-driven cultures, traditions and practices. No, what this really means is that its universe is unambiguously meaningful. It is organized around fixed principles, and these principles are accessible and understandable to the player. In short, it simulates an experience of what is known as sacred space. In his book The Sacred and the Profane, Mircea Eliade distinguishes two modes of being in the world, two ways of engaging with it. The profane experience pretty much reflects our modern secular worldview, which looks at space as neutral and homogeneous. Here, no stone is more meaningful than the next, and nothing moves in a fixed, purposefully ordered direction. It suggests a universe of indifference and chaos. The sacred, on the other hand, is that which can be experienced as occasional interruptions of the profane space. It is that which reveals something centered, something absolute to which we can anchor ourselves. That which renders certain spaces significant, meaningful, powerful. In organized religions, these are the temples, shrines and cathedrals. The places that have been organized in such a way that they invoke a different, non-profane experience to the people who enter them. For these people, the experience of the sacred is probably synonymous to the experience of God. But, as Robert Moore points out in his book The Archetype of Initiation, what the sacred articulates on a more essential level is not the belief in God, but belief in some kind of regenerative power or libidinal energy that could be tapped into for personal and social regeneration. In Skyrim, this kind of energy is made literal and explicit. When you walk up to a shrine, for example, your prayer is not being sent into the void, but is instead answered with tangible blessings and healing powers. Similarly, the deities in this realm are not just metaphors in myths and stories. They are real, and they talk back. And the standing stones you occasionally encounter are no mere tokens of superstition. They are actually magical, and grant you with additional benefits. If you desire to be a better warrior, for example, you can activate the Warrior Stone and Skyrim's greater cosmic forces will guide you on that path by making your warrior skills experience 20% faster. These are the obvious examples of the sacred emerging out of the ordinary. They are the physical spaces within the world of Skyrim that are more meaningful, that contain something more than the raw materials they are made of, and that are uniquely useful to the player because of it. But the experience of Skyrim as a meaningful universe extends beyond these explicit emulations of religious artifacts and practices. It is also embedded in the very core of its design, and as such, its world has an inherent meaningfulness that is perceivable at all times, albeit mostly instinctively. What this means is that in Skyrim, sacred energy is not just experienced through occasional glimpses in profane space, but surrounds you constantly. It is the ever-present bedrock upon which you base your understanding of and sense of purpose within this world. In more practical terms, it means that the world of Skyrim is one that simply makes sense, one where you quickly discover which actions are meaningful and which are not. This part is true for pretty much all games. Even beyond the role-playing genre, games function according to rules, meanings and causalities that can be learned by the player, whether this is the knowledge of which block in Minecraft generates which resources, which enemy types there are and what weaknesses they have in a game like Doom Eternal, or just the concept of gaining experience points and using them to unlock new skills that can be found in so many games today. It is that presence of a clear, knowable set of principles at the core of a game's world that, when understood, allows you to purposefully progress through it and advance your character and story within it in a meaningful and rewarding way. In fact, this is the sole purpose of games in the first place, to make that explicit connection with you as the player and put you and your experience center stage. In Skyrim, regardless of what narrative you create for yourself, on this meta level, the world is always completely centered around you. It comes into being the moment you step into it, and essentially stops existing when you exit it. The game is saved at the point of your departure, and its entire world freezes while it awaits your return. Stories and quests are not just there for you to coincidentally get involved in, they are there only for you. They will not unfold or be completed without your active participation. The same goes for treasures, hidden secrets, and other special items, which are scattered throughout the map for you to uncover, and for you alone. In this sense, you could say Skyrim, or any single-player game for that matter, is at its core a highly self-centered experience, a narcissistic fantasy. And to some extent this is true. But I also think there is something that is quite beautiful about it. Because even though it has become somewhat of a general assumption that whenever we enter a new game world, we do so with this implicit knowledge that everything it has to offer is there specifically for us, it is also easy to take for granted the attitude we assume while doing so, and how significantly it tends to differ from the general attitude we have in real life. There is something quietly yet profoundly optimistic about who we become in role-playing games. Entering a world like Skyrim fills you with a kind of enthusiasm and curiosity that you most likely don't experience as strongly outside of the game. It is the kind of proactive, outgoing mentality that makes you want to talk to everyone, makes you want to hear everyone's stories, makes you want to help them when they are in need.
Thank you so much.
Can you imagine what it would be like if you had that same vigor in your real life as well? To have that unyielding drive to go out and explore, to work hard and diligently on your skills and experiences, to have this level of focus, commitment, to have this level of enjoyment and meaningful engagement all the time. In a way, it precisely shows what is missing in our world and what is missing from who we are within it. According to both Eliade and Moore, modern society has largely come to be defined by the profane experience of space, which is not so much about our scientific understanding of the world, but more so about our personal, more subjective connection to it, and subsequently about our ability to find a meaningful and rewarding way to navigate through it. Profane space has no axis mundi, no cosmic tree or pillar leading to the heavens, Moore writes. This is the experience of modernity, people unable to locate a center. And at the end of the day, we do need that, at least to some extent. Eliade argues that despite us seeming to exist in a completely profane world, there is no such thing as the completely profane person. In the structure of our consciousness, as he puts it, We cannot be without some notion of the meaningful. We behave as if we have some kind of center. We are going somewhere. We are doing something. And although we generally tend to see this as nothing religious, just the human mind working as it does, for Eliade it does show that we still carry and are unconsciously connected to the memory of something sacred. I'm paraphrasing here, but he points out how there are, for example, privileged spaces that are qualitatively different from all others. Our hometown and the house we grew up in, the scenes of our first love, or certain spaces in the first foreign city we visited in our youth. Even for the most non-religious people, all these places still retain an exceptional, a unique quality. They are the holy places of our private universes, the places that we keep coming back to, be it physically or mentally, to remember something we feel we have lost, to enjoy the feeling of nostalgia, or to find some other form of regeneration. What it comes down to is that we are always, consciously or unconsciously, in search for something to hold on to, some place or memory that reminds us of who we are when we feel lost, that reminds us of where we are going when our path is no longer clear to us. We long for a universe that makes sense, that we can know and understand, that gives us guidance and direction. And that, to me, is what being in the world of Skyrim effectively simulates. It reflects the kind of universe I sometimes wish I lived in. The kind of universe where you can draw actual quantifiable regenerative power from the spaces around you. The kind of universe that, when you enter it for the first time, immediately provides you with the promise of eventual understanding. The kind of universe that, when you achieve that understanding, grants you the enjoyment of real wisdom, the enjoyment of being familiar with every nook and cranny of the world, of having mastered every aspect of your interaction with it. And the funny thing is, over the years, Skyrim became more than a simulation of sacred space for me. In a way, it became an actual one. Going back to it now, I'm not so much reminded of the specific memories of when I first played it, but I do feel connected to a certain energy that was generated back then and has nurtured me ever since. It is no longer just a virtual space I visit while playing a video game. It is a mental one I can visit in my head. And sometimes, like when I have trouble falling asleep after a stressful day, this is where I go to. I see the forest surrounding Riverwood, the streets of Whiterun. I see the sun set over the majestic mountains. I hear the ever-present wind, the birds, the rivers, the calming music. I sense the atmosphere. I relax and drift away. Like all forms of storytelling, video games can challenge us with difficult moral dilemmas. They can engage us with existential questions. They can teach us valuable lessons. But they can also be an escape, an otherworldly refuge. Skyrim is such a place for me. But of course, we all have our own Skyrims. We all have our own story worlds that feel familiar, comforting, that give us a break from whatever it is we're going through or are struggling with. They are the places that we understand, that make sense. Places where we can reconnect, where we can re-ground ourselves, and just be at ease. And when it comes down to it, that is all they need to be for them to become sacred, to become the holy places of our private universes, the places that we can't help but return to. There is another element that I haven't yet touched on, and that is the process of initiation and how it relates to sacred spaces and video games. It is not a discussion that was vital to the argument presented here, just like the deleted case study on Cyberpunk 2077, in which I discuss how that game felt more like an experience of profane space, and subsequently failed to draw me in like Skyrim does. But if you would like to see this extra content and dive even deeper into the subject material, you can now watch an extended version of this video on Nebula. Partnered with CuriosityStream, Nebula is a streaming service created by me and dozens of other amazing creators like Lindsay Ellis, Jacob Geller, Rasputin, Thomas Flight, PhilosophyTube, and many more. You can follow your favorite creators, watch our videos without any ads or sponsors, and enjoy some exclusive content. For example, on Nebula you can now also watch my recent series of shorts on Stoic philosophy in their full glory as one extended video, including an additional critical reflection on how the Stoics saw the universe as inherently good and well-ordered, and what this implies for our modern worldview that generally sees it as chaotic and indifferent. Again, all this and more can be found on Nebula, and the best part is, you can get Nebula for free by signing up for CuriosityStream. CuriosityStream is a streaming service with thousands of documentaries and non-fiction titles, like The Story of Europe, a fascinating series on the origins of European civilization, which goes back all the way to our earliest ancestors who found their sacred spaces in the caves of France. Whereas CuriosityStream is all about big-budget non-fiction productions like these, they also love independent creators, which is why they are helping us to grow our platform, and which is why I'm excited to share that, for a limited time only, you can now get a 20% discount on their annual plan. That is less than $15 for a whole year of both CuriosityStream and Nebula. So if you'd rather be watching extended content instead of this ad, enjoy some fantastic documentaries, and help out my channel and that of many of the other creators you know and love, be sure to head on over to curiositystream.com/likestoriesofold to get the best deal in streaming today.